That's impressive. There is a lot of terrible information about the Stark Varg out there on the interwebs. Today, no pro rider, no fancy lighting, just me, you, and the Stark Varg and the facts. Let's get into it. No, this is not a KTM with an electric motor in it. Everything that you see here, except for the suspension, the brakes, are Stark Vargs from top to bottom, left to right. The power on a Stark Varg is adjustable. When you buy one, it doesn't come out of the box just ready to rip at 80 horsepower. In fact, this bike has a power range of between 10 horsepower all the way up to a true 80 horsepower and anything in between. Let's talk about weight. As this bike sits right now, there's obviously no gas. That's actually really awesome for the video. The phone works. As this bike sits right now, its total weight is 255 pounds. Now, some of you are shocked and are like, that bike is so crazy heavy. But remember, it's only 5 or 6 pounds from a fully prepped dirt bike that has a gas motor in it. I myself have not ridden the Stark Varg yet, but I can't wait to do so, and that video is coming. But one thing to note that a lot of people will tell you is that once this bike starts rolling, it doesn't feel any heavier than a normal dirt bike. In fact, most people will tell you that it actually feels a lot lighter than most dirt bikes. Why? The reason is because the motor has no moving piston, no crank, no gears that are moving around. So when you turn that throttle, the power is immediate. Moreover, when this bike is, let's say, on the track, whether it's a turn track or your local MX track, because there is no moving mass within the motor, when you put this thing into a turn, it wants to stick. Versus other 4-stroke bikes where you turn the throttle and the bike immediately wants to stand straight back up.
The throttle itself isn't run by a cable. It's a fly-by-wire setup, meaning as you twist this throttle, it's giving electrical input to the motor, which is why you get instant power.
The frame is made out of a chromoly, but the subframe is 7000 series aluminum. What you might also notice is this black portion up here. That's actually carbon fiber. Forged carbon fiber to be exact. Just like an F1 car, it is a structural component. One thing to note about the frame and design itself is that the battery, the motor, and the frame all work together. This isn't like a normal dirt bike where you have your frame and you slap a motor inside of it. This is all one unit that has been designed to work together to give you the best ride experience. The suspension. You also get basically the best suspension that's out on the market right now. KYB Triple S suspension is on this bike. The brake system is also not proprietary, but that's okay because it's a Brembo system. Literally the same technology that you see on race cars, KTMs, and high-end motorcycles is in this bike's braking system. And last but not least, Galford lines and rotors, because if you're gonna go with Brembo, might as well go with the best of everything else. Now, since we're talking about the brakes, one thing I should immediately point out is that this is not a clutch. This is the rear brake. This bike has so many options for you to choose from that you can choose how to brake. A rear handbrake like this one, or a standard foot brake like you would race with in MX. But the braking system isn't the only thing that you can choose to change up on this bike. In fact, when ordering, you have so many options that I actually had to write them down just to be able to remember them all. So yeah, you get the option of a handbrake or a foot brake when ordering, as well as a side stand or node side stand. You also get colorway options like red, the gray, which is clearly my favorite, or white. You also get the option to order a different rear wheel size from an 18 for off-roading or a 19 for MX. And something that's completely unheard of in our industry. When you buy this bike, you get to choose your spring rate for your rear shock and your forks without any added money added on top of the bike. That doesn't mean that you're gonna get A-kit suspension, but it does mean that you're gonna get a bike that's set up for you right out of the box. Camera is in hand because I wanted you guys to see up close and personal how these controls actually work. So let's get into it. So let's say you just pulled your bike out and you're ready to go rip. You're gonna put your Stark phone inside and clip it in just like that. You'll come over to the power, turn it on. You'll hear that little click. The flashing light lets you know that the bike is in neutral. Once the bike is on, you'll notice that the phone will automatically connect to the bike. This right here is showing you the percentage of power that's inside of the battery and your Bluetooth connectivity up here in the right-hand corner. Next, I would go into my modes, and that's going to bring up a few different map options that you can scroll through, or you can choose your maps up here. Map 2, Map 1, 3, so on and so forth. What you'll notice on the screen is these two portions right here. The first one on the left-hand side is your horsepower, and the one on the right is your regen braking. You can actually adjust the power just by literally scrolling this toggle back and forth. Everything from 10 horsepower all the way up to 80 horsepower is available on this bike. What's also interesting is the regen braking. 0 would be equivalent to less than a 125's engine braking, while 100% would be more than a 450's engine braking, and you have everything in between. When it comes to map settings, there are obviously 5 options here that I showed you earlier. Let's say that I want to ride this thing and cruise around like a normal vet, and I'm just going to put this thing to 30 and 23% regen braking, and I save that. Now it's set for map 1. Now here's where things get crazy. Let's decide I want to be a pro for the day, and I crank this thing all the way up into this gray area here at 73 horsepower. Let's say I turn this to wherever I decide to go. I do the regen braking at 28%. When I go to actually save this, it's going to give me a warning, and thankfully it does, because that much horsepower on a bike like this is probably going to tear your arms off if you're not ready for it. So you'd press got it, and now it's saved. And you can obviously do that across all 5 maps. Whether your goal is to have a practice map and a race map, or an off-road setting and an on-track setting, or like I said, you want maps for different people who are going to be riding, this is that versatile. All right, so you've set up your map and you're ready to go rip. This thing is now in neutral, as we said before. So when I twist the throttle, nothing happens. So it's really important that we click this bottom button, and you'll notice your gauges are set. And when I twist this throttle over here, that's freaking insanity, dude. That is, holy smokes. Like, that power is like, boom, right there. You barely crack that throttle and that rear tire is moving. That's impressive. I'm gonna spin the tire here. Now watch the map. The tire hasn't stopped spinning, and I'm shifting through what map I want to go to. Okay, so now we've gotten all the other stuff out of the way. Let's talk about some of the trick things that are on this bike setup. You'll notice here that modes is not the only option for me. Let's click over to stats. Stats is really interesting because it gives you a lot of information that obviously your normal dirt bike wouldn't give you. I'm just gonna scroll through here, but basically on this bike we have 1 hour and 15 minutes in total ride time, distance ridden, air time, max speed, fuel consumption. If this bike had gas in it, it kind of gives you an equivalent. When we click over to rides, what you're seeing here is stats on individual rides. As we scroll down, I'm going to just scroll down to the bottom here. What you're going to see is a map of Fox Raceway. It's going to show you your GPS location on that track, and then it'll give you stats with your ride time, your average speed, how much battery you ended up using, the distance that you went, and yes, the last person who rode this thing rode it at 80 freaking horsepower. That is insane. Let's say you're gonna go camping or trail riding and you're camping overnight. Some of you may be thinking, great, I'm gonna have to hook this thing up to a generator or buy a new generator than the one that I already have, but that's not the case, and here's why. By clicking the gear here and going to charging current, it actually allows me to adjust how much draw the bike is pulling from whatever charging station you're using. So you can draw everything as low as 2 amps all the way up to 10 amps. So it actually has the capability of charging at 120 volts or 220 volts. At 120 volts, this bike should charge at about 4.5 hours. At 220 volts, you're looking at around 2 hours. Let's talk about the stand. Come on. This stand, first and foremost, offers 2 features. It holds your bike, and it's the charging station for your bike, and it works like this. Opens up, pull out your power cord, plug that into whatever source you're going to use, whether it's a generator or the wall in your garage. Then you're going to grab the portion that actually links up to your bike. I'll show you where it plugs in at. You'll undo this cap, rotate it to the left. That exposes the actual plug in. Then you'll take the plug, you'll hear it snap, and now you're charging. To reverse that process, unplug, get your cap. That's it. To put the stand away, it's literally just as easy as it was opening it back up. You'll put your cords back in, take that, seal the door closed. And the best part about it, you can actually power wash the bike on this stand. If you're like me, you probably are the type of person who likes to change out their pegs because a lot of times stock pegs leave some wanting. But these, on the other hand, are the strongest and lightest foot pegs out on the market, and that includes aftermarket. Another thing to note is that on other pegs and on other bikes, you might get your peg to kind of fold up 45 degrees. This one, on the other hand, folds basically 90 degrees. So when you're in those deep ruts, no catching that peg. For you off-road guys, check this thing out. Notice that this linkage is way up under the swing arm. No longer are you gonna have to worry about rocks and stuff hitting your linkage. It's about 60 millimeters higher than any other dirt bike out there on the market. Now, some of you are thinking, great, now I have to try and get way up under there to try and maintenance my linkage. Nope, they've thought of that too. This portion right here unscrews, and now you're looking straight through the arm to your linkage. Even with all of the adjustment that they've made to the linkage and where it's positioned, there is 0 travel loss. Literally just as much suspension as you'll see on anything else with the standard linkage setup. When I tell you that Stark Future has literally thought of everything when it comes to this bike and your ride experience, I mean everything. And it doesn't start and stop with the bike. Check out the stuff that actually comes with the bike. A full tool set, and look at how nice this box is. On top of that, you'll get your Varg phone. And if you have an Android, you could take the SIM card out of that, throw it in this, or just use this as a secondary item. What most people looking at this thing are not gonna realize is the amount of money that's in this toolbox. Yes, you're seeing a 3/8 and a 1/4 inch torque wrench. Something like this would retail you in the hundreds of dollars to buy. Like I said, this comes with the bike. This isn't extra, this isn't an add-on, this isn't something that they're gonna try and upcharge you. It's just a part of the initial purchase of the bike. That's crazy. No other manufacturer does this kind of stuff. You'll notice the inlay is actually a solid piece of wood. Under this, you'll see there's a T-wrench. That T will attach to any one of these adapters, and you can literally take apart your bike with just what's in here and then rebuild it if you wanted to. All right. Now, we're not gonna go ride it at the track, but I couldn't just have the bike sitting here without a little putt around. All right, let's give this thing a whirl. Dude, this thing is so fast. I'm trying to think of, I've never actually gone up there. I know there's people that do though. Oh, dude. Whoop. So here's what I can honestly say for that 30 seconds of riding. It's so easy to ride. It's predictable. The power is there right when you need it. I struggled off this like stupid, gravelly, rocky dirt. Never at any point did I feel out of control. I bumped it up to map 2, bumped it up to map 3, which we had preset. Like, you can crack that throttle and that power is right there, guys. Like, it is crazy impressive, and I didn't believe the rep when he told me, but when you get the bike rolling under power, this thing feels like a 125. It is so light and agile, it's kind of like mind-blowing. So again, this whole video is just so you guys can see that the Stark Varg is more than a toy. It's not some concept bike. This thing is a full-blown MX bike for the people who want to race it, for the people who want to go out and do trails, or for somebody like me in a t-shirt, pants, and shoes that just want to go ride around their track at home or in the parking lot of wherever they work. This bike can do it all, and I highly recommend that you just give it the chance that it deserves. Outside of that, MotoFam, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Another ride video will be coming of an actual ride on this bike. See you on the next one.